And welcome to America's Mayor Live. And we're continuing we're continuing from the Rudy Giuliani show, in which we had Zem Miller on. Zem Miller is the man on Sunday who created quite a stir, or the police created quite a stir, arresting him on the theory that he was allegedly attempting to assassinate President Trump. It turns out that he is a very avid President Trump supporter with great credentials as a Trump supporter. Seems to have a very reasonable explanation for why he had two guns that were both in the in the back of his car. That he actually announced the guns to the police before they had any inkling that he had it. And that then it turned into some kind of a crazy circus in which he was originally charged. Uh, Apparently, the Secret Service looked into it. They never bothered to even interview him, and they let him go with a misdemeanor charge with regard to something having to do with the gun. And I think they satisfied themselves that he was not there to do any harm to President Trump. I interviewed him, had a gentleman here who knew him from having met him uh, just a few months ago at CPAC. And from all that you can tell, this seems like it was a terrible set of confusing circumstances. But in this day and age, confusing circumstances are often connected to each other. So I think there might be more to this than meets the eye, but we'll have time to get into this. I did want to spend on that show sometime, so we'll do it here on what is really disturbing me greatly. And that is the very, very apparent hatred that Kamala Harris seems to have for the Catholic Church. Uh, and I can see why. I mean, first of all, I've always had a suspicion that she is a pretty thorough communist, given the fact that her father, well, we think is her father, is an avowed Marxist professor and a communist. There are people that put doubt on the fact that that's her father. She doesn't, so we have to assume that it is. The one thing that would suggest that he isn't, although he is a communist, he's quite a well-written and very intelligent man, and she sure as hell didn't inherit his brains, because she's a real, like, living, breathing jackass. And I think he could have passed the bar exam. Obviously, she couldn't, nor can she answer questions in any sentence that means anything to a person who possesses the ability to use the principle of logic. She's not able to do that. The interview with Brett Baer was yet another indication of her talking. I know they like to say word salads. She doesn't talk in word salads. She talks in sentences that don't. She talks in sentences that become paragraphs that don't mean anything. They're non sequiturs. They're what she's displaying is the product of an extremely inferior intellect who cannot put ideas together. You have to have a certain level of intelligence to reason properly. She can't. Simple as that. And that's why people laugh at her. And maybe that's why she cackles to cover it up. Um, but she also quite obviously hates the Catholic religion, if not religion in general, which of course would be an attribute that she would share in common with what appears to be another communist who is her running mate, who's gone to China 30 times, brought American children over there, what appears to be groomed. Sounds like he was groomed when Harvard sent him over there 30 or 20 years ago. It looks like a guy that would be easily persuaded. Looks like pretty much of a doofus to me. And therefore, you could easily get him into saying things like one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. Now, what the hell that means, only Kamala Harris would know. But it does mean that socialism ain't bad. It is the ism that's killed the most people probably in the history of the world. Not that his brain could retain that. The country that he's so in love with, China, which he writes wonderful things about, and apparently has gotten a lot of money from, only pretty much has the record as the country that's killed more of its own people than any country, at least in recent memory. How about 100 million under the socialist Red Chinese regime that liked him so much they had him come back 30 times. And the thing that's amazing is the complete lack of interest of the American media in an issue that is directly directly connected to our national defense and our national security. I mean, if I were put in charge of clearing this guy for a security clearance, I wouldn't give him one. No, he'd have to. I don't know what his explanation could be for going to China 30 times. They're only going to invite you back if they like you. If they like you, you shouldn't get a security clearance. And what's he doing? Bringing American kids there. What the hell do you want to bring American kids to China for? It's the most homicidal government in the world. They don't just practice one genocide. They got about 3 or 4 going on. And he's running for vice president. He let a whole city burn down of his. And he's done things in Minnesota that are only a communist would do. Minnesota passed a law under him that he lied about during the debate, in which they have no restrictions on abortion. And not only don't they have any restrictions on abortion, they specifically changed the law that said if a baby is born and the abortion doesn't work and the baby is born, Minnesota law used to say you had to take every means to keep the baby alive. Well, since it's a human being at that point, and nobody's going to dispute that, that would seem to be a pretty humane and decent thing to do. He specifically changed the law to strike that out and to put in all you have to do is keep them comfortable. Interpret it as stick them on a slab and don't do anything for them. Now, we know he interpreted it that way because before he realized it, 5 deaths were reported that way. They reported the death of 5 children that lived through an abortion and then died because they got no care afterwards in his Minnesota. He then stopped reporting. And the people who look into these things, I guess the pro-life people, say there are another 12. So when Donald Trump says he's an executioner, hey, he's on very solid. He's a lot more solid ground than the so-called lying fact checkers. Everything that he and Vance have said about Walz is absolutely true. When he was asked, don't you have a state that has no restrictions on abortion? He said, no, that is flatly untrue. He is one of 7 states that has no restrictions on abortion. None, 0. You don't even have to go through a perfunctory in the best interests of the mother, which is, I mean, it used to be the only time you could even conceive of a late-term abortion is if the mother was going to die. Then it became the health of the mother, and that was interpreted as psychological. And you could get pretty low standard on that. But in Minnesota, it's nothing. You just do it. Just kill a 7, 8, or 9-month-old, which in many states is considered a double homicide. Should you shoot a woman who's 8 months pregnant, you're charged with 2 murders. Why is that? Because the other one being killed is a human being. So you get charged with murder for shooting it, but you don't get charged with murder if you're a doctor who crushes its skull. Seems like the guy is a communist, huh? If you tolerate that. That's the kind of respect for human life that they have in China, not in what was good old America that we used to have. Her hatred of Catholicism includes an exceptional hatred of Christopher Columbus. She said, sign me on. Do we have her on tape saying that, Ted? Sign me on for getting rid of the Christopher Columbus statue, presumably because he was involved in killing some indigenous people. I mean, no one bothers to ask, did the indigenous people try to kill him? I mean, they weren't exactly nonviolent.
Yeah, we're going to play that in a second. So,
by the way, the reason I bring up Columbus is Columbus was a very famous Roman Catholic. He also is very, very important to the Italian people, the Spanish people, maybe even the Jewish people, because now they say he was Sephardic, which would not be unusual. Italy
It's on a
had a
federal
large
level
number
to
of
change
Jewish
Columbus
people.
Day to
Do you
Indigenous
know that the
Peoples Day.
word Sephardic, the description, is an Italian Latin word? Sephard was where it came from, which indicates that there were a large number of Jewish people in Italy. And if you've ever been to Trastevere, they've got some great Italian Jewish restaurants there. So the idea that he was Jewish and part Italian and part Spanish, that would be very typical of the time.
Here is Kamala Harris on whether or not she agrees with the, I guess, the removal of the name
Killing
transfer.
babies, or
This is the Columbus Day.
oh, okay. Well, we
Get
could
rid
get
of
around.
Columbus Day. So
Okay, all right.
here's Kamala Harris on Columbus Day.
And why does that matter so much?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could
And,
probably
and why it matters is, to your very point, we have to remember history. And this question, I think, really is connected to the last question about our morals and our compass, and our goals and our aspirations. We have to remember our history. Uncomfortable, to your point about truths, though it may make us.
Day. So I'm wondering, would you support efforts on a federal level to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, and why does that matter so much?
Sure, yeah. And why it matters is, to your very.
Well, does she ever answer it?
Wait a second. I noticed the same thing, man. I noticed the same thing. She does answer. She says, "Yeah, sure."
Doesn't she
Very
say count?
weakly.
I thought she said count on me.
I heard sure, but it was like very mumbly. Let's play that again.
No, let's not
Okay.
play it again. It's not that important.
Answer that question.
Well, she sort of answered it. She said she would, and she also described Columbus as a bad guy. I imagine that's when she met him. She came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
So now I ask her another question. If we're going to remove that statue, how about we remove Muhammad statues? For any number of people that Columbus killed, Muhammad killed a hell of a lot more, including large numbers of Jewish people and Christians. And in fact, he created armies to go out and kill Christians and Jews. What do you think would happen if we asked her, should Muhammad be treated the same way as Columbus? She'd faint. She might lose some votes in Minnesota. Well, she damn well should lose some votes in Little Italy. I'll tell you that. I mean, I will say what Trump has said, and what several of my Jewish friends have said about the Jewish people. If you're an Italian American and you vote for her, you're a real jackass. You're out of your mind. She has no respect for you. She would jump over backwards if we had changed that to Muhammad. How about George Floyd? Why the hell is there a statue to George Floyd? Okay. The way you get killed doesn't make you a hero or an enviable life to use as a model. The man was a complete criminal. He was a woman beater. He was a complete drug addict, and he beat the hell out of women and children. Well, we want black kids to grow up like George Floyd. It was either a justifiable or not homicide, in doubt, because he died of an overdose of drugs.
They never mentioned that.
They never mentioned that. But in any event, even if you assume he was killed by a police officer, that doesn't make him a hero. Not if he 2 weeks before is beating the hell out of a woman and a child. He's got a record, considerably longer than my arm. And you don't want your kid to grow up like George Floyd, but you got a statue to him.
And you're not allowed to say that. For what?
Well, I'm allowed to say it. Try to stop me.
We say it, but right, they made it. They're criticizing George Floyd or bringing up his
George Floyd. We know about. The facts about Columbus are so damn old, and the facts about Van Miller are fake, and they're just 3 days old.
That's right.
I think the facts going back 500 years are going to be a little harder to interpret.
And by the way, so if we're criticizing,
you leave your damn paws off Christopher Columbus.
Men
are going to come and get you.
If he's a bad guy,
and George Washington, they want to take down George Washington's statue.
They want to change the name of George Washington University.
What up, Diddy Bitty? What's that guy's
Oh,
name?
P. Diddy.
I could never get his name right. What
You
the
really
hell?
don't.
What does he do? Didn't he kill
Well,
somebody?
well, apparently he's been doing a lot of things, and it's gonna likely keep him behind bars.
Is he the one who killed somebody?
Not that we're aware
Oh,
of.
well,
but I
who was the
wouldn't
one
be
that killed
surprised.
somebody?
Well, someone killed Epstein. If that's
No, no, I'm
Oh,
talking about the rappers. They're all about. They like to kill people and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we have a member of the audience. You don't have to. You
Well,
just
we'll
come on.
work on it. We'll get it worked out
We'll-
for the
later.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't. I certainly. If he's really basically, if we leave it with he's an abuser and a pedophile. I mean, in California, they would give him like you get an award, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They reduced the penalties for pedophilia to nothing. And now I think they've actually done away with a lot of that stuff about where you have to identify yourself as a sexual. I think you only have to do it for a few years. Now, every scientific works, and I am not science, I'm not Fauci, but I just read about it.
I am science.
But everything I've ever read about pedophilia, particularly prepubescent pedophilia, is not curable. So if you get identified as one, you better be identified all your life as one. I sure as hell, if I had a couple of little boys or girls at home and you moved a pedophile next to me and you didn't tell me, I'd be kind of angry.
And I believe the system now is they tell you, right?
Yeah.
You have to be on some sort of list.
Yeah. I mean,
that-
my secret desire would be to remove them, get them the hell out of my neighborhood. But
Yeah,
that's
interesting. How
right?
that works.
So, so here we have somebody running for president that. Oh, and then she has your witless governor
Oh God.
do this thing with communion.
Yeah, we'll bring that up.
That's completely insulting. What's that all about? She's making fun of communion. Does she even know what it is? Does she have any idea what?
Strange.
Look at that damn thing. That and your dumb looking governor. Why do they get these people in the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I don't even. I
What
don't
do they
totally
do?
understand
They do
that. Maybe is there some sort of
a profile for morons?
Yeah.
Well, I guess they have to.
Gosh, and his dancing.
I guess they have to find people who don't believe in God to start with, because they've conducted, a 30-year war on God.
That's a good point. So that's Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer mocking Holy Communion. So interesting.
Well,
By the Democrat Party.
She said she didn't know that she was doing it. Now, then she's really, really stupid. If she has no idea. Now, she is a Christian, and she has attended Episcopalian churches. That's the way they give out communion in Episcopalian churches, just like in Roman Catholic churches and Greek Orthodox churches, Lutheran churches, maybe Presbyterian. Depends on, you'd have a division in Protestantism between what we call high and low Protestantism. And the high Protestantism is extremely close to the liturgy of the Catholic Church. The further removed Reformation, sometimes you don't even have communion, or you have it once a year and it's given out differently. But that is the method that millions and millions of people every day use for giving out communion. And she has seen it, no doubt, because I read somewhere that she attended Episcopal church once. That was done. And then she makes that stupid look in the camera like, boy, I got you. And how stupid this is. And you're going to vote for her? You're going to vote for them? They stopped you from practicing your religion during the pandemic, but they kept the liquor stores open. You can communicate with alcohol, but not with God. That's their priority. I thought there was no more important time to keep the churches and the synagogues and the mosques and the other houses of worship open than during the pandemic, and find a way to do it that was safe. And apparently there were many, many ways to do it that was safe, but the liar thief Fauci wouldn't tell us.
That guy, he's more than just a liar. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book is real clear on it. Follow the money. I think Fauci's is a money man. He's all about money. He's trying to get a lot of money so he can stand out and look tall. So we'll be right back after this message.
Nice one.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So shall we put
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
And we're back.
well, we're back on
All right, guys, we're live.
We're back on America's Mayor Live, which means everybody should quiet down. And I have Ali Reza with me, my friend Ali Reza, that you all know really, really well. And you know that, I mean, you know, let's just cut through everything. The situation in the Middle East, whether you're talking about Houthis or Hamas or Hezbollah or Sinwar or anybody else, the real key to this is the regime of terror. They are driving the whole thing. And second, if you want a solution to peace in the Middle East, you're going nowhere if you keep the regime of terror. I don't care what agreement you reach. You're never going to have peace in the Middle East so long as there is a very powerful regime right in the middle of it that is dedicated to death to Israel and death to America. Now, until and unless we realize that, which we have avoided for 40 years, and until we do something about that, we're just going to be losing lives for nothing. And I am very disappointed by what I read, because I thought we were at the point that Bibi was, despite Biden's advice, who has some kind of a pathological, and so does Harris and Obama, pathological love for the regime of terror. I thought they were that he was going to go ahead and just take out their nuclear facilities as best he could, but he's not. So can you, Ali Reza, explain to me how close within Iran, how close are we to being able to overthrow that government? Because people, you know, you think of all of the Arab Spring and all of the overthrows. Whenever they take place, people say, "Oh, I didn't think that could happen. I didn't think that could happen." And actually, if you're any kind of student of history, all of the indicia were there, with a few exceptions that would show that to you. Well, they're all there in Iran. They've been there for about 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely, Mayor. You know,
I get as close to that as possible.
sure. The dictators
seem to be invincible until they actually fall. And the Iran regime is absolutely no exception because all the indications are already there. Since 2018, there have been 9 rounds of major uprisings in Iran, shaking the very
Since
foundation
since 18.
since 2018, actually December 2017 and early 2018. And in these uprisings, every time they came back, they were a lot deeper, longer lasting, and more focused on regime change. And that's why we can see that the majority of the Iranian population have already taken the risk and rejected this regime. These protests involve over 200 cities in all 31 provinces of the country, calling for regime change, chanting death to dictator, death to Khamenei, death to the oppressor, be the Shah or the supreme leader, making it very clear that the country is not going backwards to the dictatorship of the Shah, which was a single party rule and had the notorious secret police Sabak, nor is it going to settle for the current theocracy, which justifies everything under the cover of the religion. Rather, the country, especially the younger generation, they are vying for change in the country. The future of Iran is going to be bright. It's going to be a republic based on separation of religion and state. And it's going to be a free country. And also, there is an organized resistance in Iran that have kept the flames of uprisings alive. As we speak, there have been protests by teachers, by workers. Those protests continue. And the people have rejected the regime during the so-called elections when they wanted to pick a replacement for Raisi, who was killed in a supposedly in a helicopter
I
crash.
think that was legitimate.
I have no idea what it was, but whatever it was,
I guess some things actually do happen as a matter of accident, but nowadays we're in an age in which you almost don't believe that anymore.
well,
All of a sudden, Raisi, he's one of the biggest killers in the history of Iran. Right?
absolutely, Raisi. By the way,
Did he kill more people than Soleimani, or did Soleimani kill more people than him?
I think both of them were competing. Some of them were killing more outside of Iran, and Raisi was more involved inside Iran. You know, he was one of the 4 members of the Death Commission in 1988, in the summer of 1988. In a matter of months, they massacred 30,000 political prisoners. And based on a religious decree issued by then Supreme Leader Khomeini, who said anyone who is in any way associated with the main Iranian opposition movement, the MEK, must be killed. And that's the job that Raisi did, carrying out those killings inside the country. And the new president, so-called, the more supposedly more moderate Pezeshkian, think about it. Since he took office in August, just this past August, 301 execution of prisoners have happened under his watch. This is larger than
And they got a trial like a Republican would get in the District of Columbia.
Well,
I don't. You don't have to answer that.
well, no. The difference is that there wouldn't be any trial.
Right. Well, then you don't really get a trial.
Right, exactly. And that's why I think the world has to keep the focus. When you see all of the things happening, especially since last October, you need to realize, and I hope the world realizes, that the head of the snake of war and terror lies in Tehran. Nothing is going to be.
Yeah, that's so. The reason this is frustrating is that it's so obvious that it defies any explanation as to why you would fall for. It's like of course, it shouldn't be analogized to football or basketball, but it's like falling for the same fake over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, 200 attacks by the Houthis, 200.
And who doesn't know that the Houthis cannot operate a single day, cannot carry out a single attack without the full support,
Absolutely.
training, and funding of the Iran regime? The Houthis,
And some of that funding comes from us.
well, when you release billions of dollars to the Iranian regime, supposedly to help their economy, guess what? The economy itself is controlled by the Revolutionary Guards. Iran is a very rich country. We have the second largest oil and gas reserves in the world. We have a tremendous population, lots of resources, but 80% of the Iranian population live below the poverty.
So according to the most unreliable newspaper in the world, which we're going to look at in a little while, the New York Times, but also others. So therefore, it might be true. Biden has talked Bibi into whatever he does in response to the Iranian attack on Israel. He's not going to affect the nuclear capacity, and he's not going to affect the oil, which means he's going to do what I call a Clinton bombing. He's going to bomb empty fields, which I think helped to lead to 9/11, by the way. I mean, what, why wouldn't we take this opportunity to reduce their nuclear capacity? And so you get generals that appear on Fox and elsewhere that say, well, it would only reduce it for 2 years. Well, that would be great if you reduced it for 2 years. Put them back 2 years. Maybe we could stretch 2 to 3 or 4. We might actually have a real president by then.
Well, actually, Mayor, I mean, you touched upon a very important issue. That's the nuclear weapons program of the Iran regime. We know a thing or two about it because when we first exposed the nuclear sites of Iran in August of 2002, thank you.
Tell us when, how far back? Tell us how far back that was.
Well, that was August 14, 2002. That's 22 years ago. And at the time, it was in a
Now, how many of people got killed for that?
Well, a number of people who were involved in, gathering information, they got arrested, they got killed. They're, and by the way, interestingly, Mayor, we paid a big price for it, not in a way that you may think inside the country. In addition to that, when we first exposed in August 2002, we came up with additional press conferences, but 4 major press conferences within a year that painted a complete picture of the nuclear program of the Iran regime, not just the enrichment part, but also the weaponization, the building the bomb, and as well as the delivery system. And what happened, the Iran regime was absolutely angry on what we were doing. So they reached out to the US government at the time, and they got our operation shut down. We got designated as a terrorist organization by the State Department for the activities we were doing. They shut down our office because we were exposing the Iran regime. It took us 15 years to fight that designation and get us out of the list.
I remember.
That's the problem with the policy. When the policy is built on appeasing the regime, and instead of rewarding those who are fighting, it's reward.
Well, I mean, the State Department is perverse. I mean, they support, for some reason, they support the reign of terror. I don't understand it. It could be because they have spies. Didn't they discover one in the Biden administration and kick him out? But he's got his girlfriend there and a whole bunch of others that are still there.
A lot of the people with very close ties
spies are still there.
Are still operating. Some of them have their security clearance taken out. Some others are still there. And I think the problem when it comes to policy is really deep rooted. And that's why, honestly speaking, this program of the Iranian regime on the nuclear issue could have been stopped long ago, many, many years ago, because it was in very early stages. The policy of appeasement, negotiations with the Iran regime allow the Iranian regime to advance the program while getting their program legitimized. The enrichment was rejected by everybody. The nuclear deal actually legitimized the enrichment program of the Iran regime, kept the entire program intact. And it's gotten to a point right now that no matter what other solutions people are talking about, I think the only way left for the outside world to get rid of the nuclear threat of the Iranian regime and for the people of Iran is to see regime change by the people of Iran. And it's a very doable thing.
I think it is very, very doable. If Trump gets elected, he should take our entire State Department and give it to Iran, and we'll start a new one. They've been working for Iran for 20 or 30 years anyway. They might as well go work for Iran. We just pick them all up, send them all to Iran, send them to Tehran, and we'll hire all new people who are Americans.
Well, Congress has been on the right side, Mayor. We have built a very strong bipartisan support, both in the House and the Senate, for a firm policy, the policy that is built on the will of the people of Iran, that is built on the desire of the people to bring about change in Iran, built on those resistance units, the young people who are risking their lives every day in the streets of
It was
the city.
when with my colleagues, we were negotiating with the State Department for you. It was really hard to find a pro-American in the State Department. It was easy to find pro-Iranians and pro-Chinese. It was really hard to find pro-Americans in the State Department.
Isn't that amazing?
It's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. I mean,
It just tells you, Mayor,
I don't even think they like America.
how deep rooted this policy of appeasement is. We are fighting a policy that is just so entrenched, and it sometimes it spans from one administration to the other. Nothing really changes when it comes to those institutions who craft policy, who make suggestions for policy. I think after the developments over the past 1 year, now is the time for the world to wake up. That the regime has built this notion that you can live with the situation in the region. You have to learn how to live with the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. No, that's not the solution. That's not a norm.
Yeah.
There is potential for change, and of course, the
Well, I do
people
hope
of Iran are the biggest allies that the world can find.
I do hope with Donald Trump, he takes something from the book of the greatest president in the last 100 years, Ronald Reagan, when asked about communism, what's going to happen with communism? He says, they lose, we win.
And that's
what should happen with the reign of terror. They lose, we win. They're gone. Well, Ali Reza, thank you very much.
Thank you
We'll
so
keep,
much.
we'll
and
keep,
always
we'll
a
keep,
pleasure.
we'll keep checking in. We'll fight really, really hard for official American policy or regime change. And I'm telling you, you are just fooling people if you're talking about peace in the Middle East without regime change in Iran. And we'll be right back.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
So this is Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. I was just asked a question by JD over here. Why not take out the oil fields? Which look, I would take out the Ayatollah if you gave me a chance. But and fine, take out the oil fields. But the nuclear program has to come first. Again, I am a product of Ronald Reagan. He was my hero. He was my boss. I don't think there's anything he wasn't right about. And here was his constant refrain and why he did the most to really reduce the risk of nuclear war. Our policy up until Ronald Reagan was mutually assured destruction, appropriately called MAD. And he said that is a very immoral and irresponsible way to secure the survival of the world. It means that both countries, the United States and Russia, have to at all times have a sane person running their government. Because if you put nuclear weapons in the hands of an insane person, you can destroy the world. Well, what do you call the Ayatollah? The guy is has distorted a religion to such a point it would justify doing anything. And to have nuclear weapons in the hands of an insane regime. Now, it could be they're feigning the insanity, but you don't make policy based on that. It's always been my belief that policy has to be made based on the worst possible scenario. You're not protecting people if you make it on the best possible scenario, right? Well, there'll be no terrorist attack. That's the best possible. So let's not have any defenses against terrorism. The worst possible scenario is that the Ayatollah or the people around him are as insane as they pretend to be, and would, in an irresponsible way, if they had it, use nuclear weapons. Also, the only thing restraining them from full-out war against Israel is the fear that they don't have a nuclear capacity, and Israel does. And even if they do have a small nuclear capacity right now, it is in no way equal to much less us, Israel. So I think both practically and psychologically, the best thing we could do. I mean, they go crazy if you set back their nuclear program. Also, it costs a fortune. You would hit them economically, maybe even harder by taking out their nuclear program. The oil program, we could take it out, but we could deal with it with sanctions too. If Biden would just enforce the sanctions, they wouldn't be able to move any oil. I'll tell you, the biggest revelation for me was when Donald Trump first came into office, in the first 6 months, before he was really able to put on the stronger sanctions, Iran was already beginning to economically shrink. Now, why is that? Because he actually forced his Treasury Department to enforce the sanctions that Obama had but never enforced. Because it would have made no sense for Obama to enforce the sanctions and deprive Iran of that money when he was giving them cash on the side. Sent over in airplanes in the middle of the night like he's a damn drug dealer. Well, maybe he was. He came from Chicago. I mean, the reality is he should have gone to jail for that. That's money laundering. I don't care if you're the president. It's money laundering. He also lied about it. He lied about it to the American people. He didn't tell us about his late night cash deliveries to the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. It was discovered. And of course, the press made very little of it because it involved Prince Obama, who they weren't going to touch. But, I mean, that's never been looked into. What the hell's that all about? Sending cash to the Ayatollah is exactly the same thing as sending cash to bin Laden. Exactly. In fact, worse, because the Ayatollah has a far greater scope of activity than bin Laden had. We can accuse Biden and Harris of being too stupid to understand what they're doing. You can't say that about Obama. And he came from Chicago. He knew when they asked for cash why they were asking for cash. You don't exactly send cash to England or Canada, right? You do it by wire. Have a record of it. Why do you send cash? Because it's easier to get cash to the terrorists. And he knew completely that half their budget goes to terrorists. I mean, let me take him to court and try him for that. I think I could prove he knowingly sponsored terrorism. Knowingly sponsored terrorism. Then we could have even more interesting testimony. That was when Soleimani was still around. And who the hell was Soleimani focusing on? American troops in Iraq and killing them, as well as members of the organization that Ali Reza was talking about. While we were trying to get them the hell out of Iraq, Iran made sure they killed a couple hundred of them. Soleimani is the one who directed all that. And all these people had written guarantees of protection from the United States government, which the Obama administration was more than willing to dishonor. But thank God our American military wasn't. They all came and testified that this is outrageous. We gave them guarantees of protection, and now we're getting them killed. I mean, back then it worked. You try that with Biden in Afghanistan. That's not going to work. He just abandoned everybody. So I'd like to see both done. But I'd sure like to see, I would feel much safer for the world if I woke up tomorrow morning and somebody had set Iran back 2 years in terms of their nuclear capacity. And I don't think Russia would do a damn thing about it. Putin is too smart to go to war for Iran. He's going to go to war for Russia, not for Iran. Now, let's change it to you let Zelensky bomb Moscow, and then I don't know what he does. And that may be the only thing that I agree with Biden about. But he's created a stalemate in Ukraine that just ends up with ongoing death, war without end. The Russians control 20-something% of Ukraine. If you're going to move them, you're going to move them 1 inch, one way or the other, by what you're doing now. And Zelensky correctly says the only way I can get them out of Russia, to get them out of Ukraine, is to attack Russia and attack it significantly. He says, I don't have to bomb Moscow. I could just take out its power. So let's say some country took out the power of New York or DC. What would we do? Smile? Well, what do you think Putin would do if you took power from his capital? He would take out Kiev. I mean, a lot of things in foreign policy and world affairs you can't predict, but unless Putin is as incompetent a moron and coward as Harris and Biden, of course he's going to do that. And he doesn't even have to start a nuclear war to do that. He could do that with tactical nuclear weapons. Sure, it'd affect a region around Kiev, wouldn't affect Moscow. He could use nuclear weapons that are what you would call lighter versions of nuclear weapons and take out a city as small as Kiev. He could have done it at the beginning of this war if that's what he wanted to do. He was afraid if he did that, he would bring the West in. But if you go ahead and you make a major attack on his capital, I don't know how much of an argument you have that he shouldn't defend himself, even if he did start the war. So we got a lot of problems. I have to do this with the New York Times. I spent too much time looking at this damn rag not to do it. Today is not an unusual day, but I look at their front page downstairs. In my condo, they have all the newspapers downstairs. So please don't feel that I bought this. I think you wouldn't trust me if I bought the New York Times. I took it, borrowed it. I didn't steal it. I'm going to put it back. Haven't even marked it up. Look, see, it's all nice and clean. But I want you to look at the front page. The major stories in a newspaper, which many of you might not know because you probably never read a newspaper. They're going out of, the major stories are above the fold. So you see, that's above the fold. Here's the fold down here. Okay, that's above the fold.
We've got the screen.
So above the fold, every single story is pro-Harris and anti-Trump. They can't even squeeze one in with bad print so they could cover themselves. The main story is the far column to the right. That's U.S. tells Israel to increase flow of release to Gaza. Military aid at risk. So the main story is what a bad dude Netanyahu is, how terrible Israel is, and they have to give more relief to the country that came into their country and killed 1,200 of their people, mostly women and children. And also a country that is to this day dedicated to the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people. Oh, one other thing. When they finish death to Israel, they always say death to America. That's you. Not the New York Times, obviously. Maybe the New York Times will be spared death to America because they haven't been American in a long time. Going back to the Second World War. But so that one is a pro. This is what Biden wants, right? Biden has wanted a ceasefire. He started ceasefire before Netanyahu even invaded Gaza. There wasn't even a fire to cease, and he was doing ceasefire. So there's one pro-Biden-Harris, anti-Trump position. Then on the left side is the second biggest story of the day. This one's really cute. Swift rise put Trump loyalists in spotlight. Bluster, mass lack of experience, foes say. So this is an inside baseball critique of the incompetence allegedly around Trump by the assholes around Biden. They make a whole newspaper article out of this. That's Elizabeth Williamson, basically saying that the Harris campaign has far more experienced people. Not that I know the names of any of them or ever heard of anything they've ever done, but that's what they say. So now we have 2 out of 2. Then I don't know which is more important in the middle. Probably news analysis would get more attention. Trump's ideas for the border slim on detail. One would agree that's negative. Now we have 3 out of 3. He doesn't have to have ideas on the border. He actually controlled it before. How about remain in Mexico? Is that slim on detail, jerks? It's a lot more detail than Harris's going there twice as the borders are. And what's she going to do? When she was asked about what she's going to do about the border, she started telling us that she was brought up in the middle class. What is she going to do? Bring the middle class down there to end the border? Or she's in favor of high aspirations. We're going to bring aspirations down? She wouldn't answer the question about whether she would stay in Mexico. She wouldn't answer the question. And then and nobody could force her to do it. She hasn't answered any questions. Meanwhile, we have Trump's last year in office, around 400,000 people came in illegally. Most of them were turned back or detained. So that number didn't even come in. That's the number that was apprehended at the border. Biden's best year was 1.7 million. His worst year was 3.5 million. Brett Baer, who conducted, I think, an okay interview, was wrong when he said 8 million people, or 10 million, that have come in under them that are recorded. It's another 1.5 million that have come in that were observed gotaways. So now we're at 11.5 million. There were surely at least 5 million who were never seen. The calculation before they hit all this, done by MIT, was that for every one that we apprehend at the border, there's one that comes in that we don't apprehend. That would mean, if you use their figure, another 10 million came in. So I'm going to reduce it to 5 million. Now, you say, well, how do you know that? Because it's just logical that with a border that's 1,700 miles long, when you got them all tied up at the border checkpoints and the cartels run the border, they're going to bring in the most high-value people. Well, you don't get to see them. That's where all the fentanyl comes in, because China's paying them a fortune for the fentanyl. The fentanyl, we never get to see. It comes over the border between El Paso and somewhere else. And they have better control over that border than we do. And they use it to make billions. So about 15 million have come in. You can be certain of that. Trump says 20. I'll say 15. Now, do you want to hear an unbelievable fact? In the whole history of Ellis Island, where everybody was vetted, many kept behind for infectious diseases or suspected of crimes, only 12 million people came in 60 years. So we've had more people come in, most of whom we don't even know who they are, or what diseases they have, or what crimes they committed, or whether they were just let out of an insane asylum. We've had more people come in 3.5 years of these irresponsible idiots than we had in all 60 years of Ellis Island. That can destroy and will destroy a country. You're taking away its nationality. They have no idea what America is. They have no idea of the values of this country. This country only is held together by shared values. And the last one is Lebanon's hospitals buckle amid an onslaught, an attack on Israel. Israel somehow, they say, hit a hospital. The last time the Times said they hit a hospital, it was wrong. The last time they said Israel hit a hospital, it was actually a Hamas missile that backfired. 25% backfired. And so when they start telling you how many civilians died, how about we take out about 25% that the Palestinians killed themselves? Also, how about the ones they put in front of the people that we killed? They used the death of civilians, because life doesn't mean anything to them, as a tactical advantage. And these sucker newspapers fall for it. Now, below the fold, it's a little better. They have two stories, and only one is pro-Harris and anti-Trump. The other one is about postpartum depression. So of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories on the front page, 5 are anti-Trump, pro-Harris, anti-Israel, pro-Harris, Biden. And this is the newspaper. Should say published by the Democratic National Committee, like, Pravda in the Soviet Union. This stopped being a newspaper a long time ago. There is something you can do with it, but I'm not allowed to say it on the air. It was very useful during the beginning of the pandemic when there was a shortage of that. I am very upset that in New York City, they have destroyed almost everything I did. And one man pointed that out to me personally, and I thought he was being nasty. He was actually very, very upset, and we shared some time together, about that. But I see that they destroyed one that they never should have destroyed, and that's called ACS, the Administration for Children's Services. I started this agency 1 year into office, and I started this agency for Elisa Izquierdo. Elisa died because of abuse and neglect that should have been stopped by the city. But because the Child Welfare Agency was buried within the welfare agency, meaning the agency that gave out the welfare checks, the child welfare got no attention. And they would divert all the money for children and use it for welfare, for the people who didn't want to work. And my head of the Department of Investigation, I asked him to please give me a better solution for this, because we were getting all these children who were just not taken care of. Nobody's paying attention to them. And he came up with the idea of a singular agency to focus just on children. Now, you're talking to somebody that wanted to reduce the number of agencies in New York City. To talk me into a new agency was pretty hard, but not for children. And we started it, and we selected, had an ingenious choice, and he gets most of the credit, as any commissioner or secretary does when a new agency works. We selected Nicholas Scappetta to be the head of the Administration for Children's Services. And within 3 years, it was a national model for how to take care of children in distress. Now, I got to say, and he'll get upset with me, but starting with Mike Bloomberg, the emphasis shifted. And then on the de Blasio, it went really wacky and became totally political. And now under Adams, I guess none of the people in his administration pay any attention to, because you can't make any money out of this agency for yourself. And it is apparently absolutely falling apart. Kids getting killed that shouldn't be killed. Now, this should be above politics, and somebody should come in and straighten this damn thing out. If they'd call me, I'd tell them how to do it. I did it once before. And for children, I don't know. Even if you're a crook, you don't want to see children die, right? This agency was a model for the country. Just like Rikers Island was. Bernie Kerik took Rikers Island from the most violent jail to the safest jail in America. And he confounded 60 Minutes, who came in to do a piece on Rikers Island and show how bad it was. And by the time they were finished, they were absolutely astounded that violence had been reduced by 90%. Now, if you want to do it, you can do it. If you're not interested in kickbacks and all the kind of crap that's coming out in the Adams administration, if you're focused on doing the right thing for people, you can do it. It's not rocket science. It's just being an honest, hardworking person. They're not in government. The New York City government has largely, all through its history, been a corrupt Democrat dictatorship. It has periods of reprieve, when a Republican or an independent gets elected. But if you're a Democrat, you can't run it honestly. The party won't let you. Just like they won't let the judges render honest decisions in political cases. They appoint them all. The two judges in the Trump case wouldn't be there without the Democrat Party leader putting them there. Moron, who did the case involving Mar-a-Lago, was elected 3 times, except he never had an opponent because the boss, Wright, put him there, and he can take him away. And you can be sure if he rendered a decision in favor of Trump, he'd be taken away, or Giuliani, or Eastman, or you name it. So let's see. Remember during the debate with Cackling Kamala? And you remember when Trump was fact-checked on crime has gone down in America? Well, crime has gone up in America. The FBI has just revised the violent crime stats. It's like revising the jobs numbers. So last week they had a report that came out that we had not an astounding, but they call it an astounding number of new jobs in the last month. Well, 6 weeks from now, the numbers will be turn out to be false. So you go back to the last report where they touted how many new jobs they created. It turned out the last one was off by 800,000 jobs. It's impossible to be off by 800,000 jobs. It's impossible. It has to be done on purpose. It's just as impossible as it is to win Pennsylvania when you're down by 800,000 votes, with 65% of the vote cast. But so now the FBI has had to revise very, very quietly, without any attention, that their crime numbers were off. Yep. So let's go to the National Crime Victimization Survey that the Justice Department has been doing longer than the FBI has been doing crime studies, and to which I constantly referred when I was in charge of reducing crime all over America. That says that last year there was a 4.1 increase in crime. That's about right. And how many crimes did they miss? Oh, about 600,000. Oh, by the way, Chicago still hasn't reported. It's like an election. They had to wait to see how many they could phony up to, but now it's not going to help. So maybe we should go back and what network was that phony debate on? CNN?
Yes.
Well, maybe CNN should do a special and apologize to Trump for fact checking him when he was right.
The CNN, the Kamala one, I believe, was CBS, right?
Oh, the CBS one was even worse.
So the vice president was CBS. Kamala and Trump was ABC.
Yeah.
That was David, our friend David.
Oh, David Weir. I mean, he belongs. David Weir should run a library or something. But then he'd give out the wrong books, the fake books. Boy, what a liar he is. But here you go, Weir. Stick this up here.
Yeah.
So I want to know something from you, Ted.
Yeah.
Why is the very best candidate running for the Senate losing, Kari Lake?
Yeah.
She is a dynamite candidate. She's a dynamite person. She's overqualified for the Senate. I don't know. Poor thing is going to be bored there. She's too smart.
Oh, yeah.
But and she's running against a communist who is to the left of Bernie Sanders in a state that's getting ruined by their communist policies more than most, Arizona. It's getting ruined.
That's right. Well, the media has been so nasty to Kari Lake for so many years. So they've kind of branded her because she's effective.
People I know in politics, she's one of the nicest.
Because she's not a puppet. She's not a puppet, right? She wouldn't take PAC money. Let me get that right. I believe she's not taking PAC money. What we do know is that she's not going to be beholden to anybody if elected. Mitch McConnell's not supporting her at all.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, right. That's a positive.
That would be like getting support from Red China.
But the big news today is that her opponent, Ruben Gallego's divorce records were ruled to be immediately unsealed. Of course, Ruben Gallego was attempting to hide his divorce records from his own constituents.
What did he do?
Spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep
Did he
them
whack
hidden.
people around like the first
He just
so-called gentleman?
He filed for divorce from his wife when his wife was not just pregnant, but prepared to give birth any day.
Well, but she wouldn't have an abortion.
So look, again, to each your own. Nowadays, I think over 50% of marriages don't last. That's not the point here, right? The
No,
point
you
is,
could wait a few days after the baby's born,
right?
Imagine.
I mean, and so in what
Is there anything else in there?
So we're going through this.
I mean, he's not. I mean, he didn't whack anybody around like Emhoff did.
Not that we're aware of. What he did do is blindside his then pregnant wife with the news and attempted to get her attorneys to pay attorney's fees. The unsealed file also shows that he wanted his wife to foot the bill for the divorce proceedings, stipulating that he was entitled to an award of attorney's fees.
Was he a congressman then?
I believe so. I'm reading. Yes.
Did he try to use?
This was
Did he try to use his status as a congressman to push people around?
The divorce was finalized in April 2017.
That's not a long time ago.
A year later, then 39-year-old Gallego met 25-year-old Sidney Barron at the congressional baseball game.
But we always beat them in baseball. Why would she go out with him?
Right,
Usually
you'd
you
think
go
they
out
would
with
go
the
winning
people
team.
from the winning team.
So this was 2017. Let's see when Mr. Gallego first got elected to Congress. So this
Last
is
time
breaking news.
Last time they played, I think they had to use the mercy rule.
But and so is that true?
Just about. We kicked the living daylights out of them. I mean, they're a bunch of sissies.
That's right. So Gallego first was elected to Congress in 2014. My goodness. So he was a congressman.
He had to be pushing his weight around.
So he's a congressman, yet he wanted to make his wife, his then pregnant wife, foot the bill. He went on to meet a lobbyist. I don't know if she was a lobbyist at the
People
time.
who are very, very sensitive to women's rights.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Very
what
sensitive.
empowering
And it's Republicans. Republicans are like Emhoff. I mean, look at Emhoff.
divorce your
knocked up
pregnant
his-
wife who's blind, not just divorce her, blindside her with the news
Well,
as she's prepared to give birth.
she didn't get the nanny pregnant like Emhoff.
Of course, Emhoff, the shining example of
He's the shining example
modern
of new masculinity.
masculinity.
I'm for the first time, I'm thinking of changing, my designation as masculine. If this guy's I always thought it was John Wayne,
Well, we
not
have a
Douglas Emhoff.
Well, Mayor, we do have an interview here coming up, but before that, maybe we take one more break.
Emhoff paid the nanny that he knocked
That's
up
what we have to. I want more on
a
that.
non-disclosure.
I want to know
He
more.
did a
about that.
non-disclosure agreement that Trump was convicted for,
Yeah, we got to know more about that.
and Trump wasn't even accused of. He didn't knock up any nanny or anything.
Well, Mayor, we only have a few more minutes left because you have to get on for another interview pretty soon.
What
A
time?
late night interview.
What time do I have to do that?
9:30 or 9:45. I'll try to get that. And unfortunately, you have the Yankees game too, so there's a lot going on.
Yeah. How are
Do you
they?
want to take a break and see if any of our other guests want to come on for a minute, or are we calling it tonight?
Yeah. Let's see if anybody wants to come on and check the Yankee score for me.
Okay, we'll check I'll take a quick break. We're gonna bring Paulina up. Maybe she can talk to us a little bit about young women's perspectives going
I would hope so.
the election. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with the final segment of America's Mayor Live.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
And we're going live, guys. And we're back.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. And I have a relatively new voter from the state of Florida.
First time Florida voter.
For-
Second time.
Second time. I'm from New York City. My name is Paulina Palladino. I'm 23 years old.
Well, very nice to meet you, Paulina. My name is Rudy, and I'm from New York City too. And I will be a first-time Florida voter also this time. I'll be voting, and it's very, very. No one even knows who I'm voting for.
Exciting. I think that it's pivotal. Like people my age are very traditional, believe it or not, and conservative, and we're really excited to just hit the ground running and vote for Trump this season.
Now, tell me, there's a common assumption that young people are all against Trump and they're all for either Harris or the Democrats. But when I look at the polls, it's a lot closer than that.
I think technology too, we can really fact check things really quick. So that's definitely to our advantage. Like we see Kamala messing up so frequently, even Joe Biden, and I think people really woke up the past 4 years. It's unfortunate we had to go through it for people to wake up, but I've been fortunate enough to be following Trump. I remember when I was in high school, I took off school to go to Midtown Manhattan and wait outside. And I remember when he won, it was the best thing ever. People left the Javits Center early because they knew Hillary was going to leave, and they came outside the Hilton. And he's just the most pro-American president we've ever had. I saw a mariachi band that night just going down the street. Everybody was.
This was in New York, right? Blue, New York.
The hurricanes, I think, really woke people up my age. They realized how American tax dollars should be kept in America and in place Americans first. It's really simple. And I think that lots of people woke up the past few weeks.
The media now is trying to blame Trump for politicizing the hurricanes. But the guy who said we didn't have enough money for the hurricanes was Mayorkas.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, he's working for them.
Yeah. I think it's the most polarizing thing that Biden and Harris did by placing Americans last, by giving more money to caravans and illegal migrants that broke the law. And it's such a valid argument. People say it's not a valid argument, but at 100% is.
Well, sure. Money is fungible, right?
Yeah.
So if you spent $694 billion on the illegal migrants, that's going to use up a lot of money in the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. So if they run out of money for hurricane relief, they have no place to go for that additional money. Just to give you a perspective, in New York City is going to spend twice as much on the illegal migrants as it does on its police department. Much better apartments than now. That may be at the core. That might be at the core of Harris's one of Harris's charges, because one of the things these crooked Democrat governors and mayors love are emergencies,
Yeah.
because you can contract without bidding.
They fund epidemics. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just give it out to your friends.
Do you think that I have a question? Do you think that when they get them apartments, they're getting addresses for the DMV for votes? Do you think that is anything tied together for like a
Yeah.
vote?
I think they register a lot of them. So there was an estimate, have no idea how good it is, that about 20 to 27% of the illegals have already been registered in Democrat cities and states where they control things. I mean, there are cities that they control, like New York, that are a dictatorship. They can do anything they want.
Interesting, because I have friends that do lean politically growing up in New York, or lean liberally growing up in New York.
Where did you grow up in New York?
Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn.
Okay, me too.
So, yeah, Brooklynites. So you grow up in New York, you see a lot of homeless people. Not when you were mayor. It's really significantly worse now. But it's sad because those Americans should be placed ahead of illegal migrants that came here illegally across.
I would think so, of course.
Also, another thing at the border, I think a lot of people my age pay attention to is human trafficking, especially with Diddy and everything. And that's like a culprit area, like where drug smugglers will go with women and young children and exploit them to get amnesty to continue illegal things.
There is absolutely no conceivable justification for a wide open border. None. Or how about California passing a law? Not only don't you have to show an identification, but if somebody asks for one, it's illegal.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. Or I'm going crazy. One or the other.
No,
Sometimes I wake up in the morning, Pauline, and I say, I can't believe this. I can't believe that they just passed a law. Well, first of all, they just passed a law in California where they lowered the penalties for pedophilia.
Well, that makes sense with everything in the news, like P. Diddy, all that stuff.
They got so many members, I guess, who were engaged in it, they had to lower the penalties. Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people.
Must have got a big contributions for that.
And I think people my age, it's especially hard, like with inflation and everything. And lots of people my age have multiple jobs. That's waking people up too. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from. Everything is incredibly expensive nowadays. Trump is amazing for the economy, and that's amazing for every American.
Well, I did a report yesterday that over the Biden years, with all of the nonsense that Harris says about health insurance, it costs roughly 30% more than it did 4 years ago.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm doing one every day. So now you look at the auto industry, and automobiles cost anywhere from 20 to 30% more than they did 4 years ago. And it looks like there's been a further deterioration of the American manufacture of automobiles. And it's switching, all of it is moving to China and elsewhere. And you got the UAW president, who sounds like he must be working for China, supporting Biden and Harris, who caused all this.
Yeah, and think about it. It's so contradictory. They're having caravans come here and having jobs leave the country. It's just a recipe for disaster.
And this guy
people less jobs.
And this guy supports losing jobs for people in his union.
Yeah.
Largely because the guys who run the unions, by and large, with a few exceptions, they're running it, for themselves.
Yeah.
Not for the members.
Yeah.
Members don't kick back anything, but who knows? Look at the Teamsters Union. The guy was gutsy enough to speak at the Republican convention, but the Teamsters voted 70-30 to endorse Trump, and the Teamsters remain neutral. And we're thankful that they remain neutral. They voted 70-30 to endorse him.
I have
I'm great. The guy spoke at the convention, but he doesn't have enough cojones to. It's supposed to be majority rule. 70-30 is a hell of a vote.
Yeah. I have another question for you. I remember when you released regarding Bermuda Holdings documents with Hunter Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that story really well because
I got to get my book. It's just coming out.
I was banned from Facebook for sharing the documents because I had a really close friend. Yeah. Right before the election.
Let's give her an award.
I still can't log on.
The American Young Courageous Award.
Last time I was here,
We'll give her an autographed copy of the book.
You will.
there's another instance that's more recent. So that was before the 2020 election. I was here last year watching, and right as I walked in, you guys were talking about human trafficking, which I love. I think halt human trafficking should be a bill. Like, but anyways, besides the point, I posted a picture with you and wrote a caption regarding that, and I was censored from Instagram for almost
Just having a picture with.
yes. And I put the hashtag. I learned not to put hashtags because it can easily algorithm can flag you and they can take you off if they don't like what you're saying. I said nothing bad. I was saying halt human trafficking. And I posted it was a picture with you, and they took me off for almost 2 months. Luckily, I have it back, and I just shared that I was here tonight.
You know that
Yeah, the censorship is real, but
of course it's real, and it's so un-American. It's so it is so much of an indication that we're becoming a communist country. You know, all these things that we're moving toward are not accidental. They all are part of Karl Marx, Engels' plan, and all these people were taught that.
Yeah.
In even in grammar school and high school and college, a lot of them don't realize that these ideas come from Marxism. When the gubernatorial candidate in Virginia said that parents shouldn't have anything to say about the education of their children, only the state should, only the he really was repeating one of Karl Marx's most important principles. In order to get control, the child has to be property of the state.
Yeah, and they break up the
The
families.
last book that he
Yeah.
wrote when he was dying was about how important it is to get the kid at about 3 years old. And Hitler followed that, and Stalin followed that. Get the kid away from the parents and let the state make the decisions for the child. So that's what McAuliffe was talking about when McAuliffe said, the parents have nothing to do with education. The state should. And that's what Tampon Tim is doing. That's what Tampon Tim is doing. In Minnesota, a 13-year-old child can go to Minnesota, have a sex change operation, and the parent has no right to interfere. What the hell ever gave them the right to chop up the body of a minor child? I mean, in fact, there are places in Europe where you can't do it at all, even with the parents' consent until the person is 18 or 23, depending on because every bit of literature suggests that they change them. 90% of the people who consider changing their sex change their mind.
Yes, they regret it, and it's not.
Yeah.
You can't erase it.
And what they're doing now is they're grooming them. And I think there are two things behind it. One of it is also comes out of Marx, to completely confuse gender, make us completely confused about who we are, what we are. Then we're going to grasp communism as the answer. The second reason is money.
Yeah.
These procedures are enormously important, are enormously expensive, and the doctors make a fortune. And unfortunately, there are a lot of doctors like Fauci that are all about money.
Yeah, and United States has like one of the highest depression rates ever. Especially, it's so obvious the last 4 years. Well, they've really taken God away, and that's the biggest problem. And luckily, I think people my age are really waking up and attending church more often, and reading Psalm and the Bible. And
well, I think having God having God at the core of a country's morality is even good for people who don't believe in God.
because it's
They should even want it, even if they think it's unnecessary, because it helps to define an ethic.
lead by example and
Yeah.
action.
Well, I'm glad and extremely happy to see not just your own views, but that it reflects a lot of other people, because it gives us hope that not everybody is, protesting in favor of a homicidal, maniacal terrorist group named Hamas that wants to kill Americans. I mean, they're actually out there protesting for a group that wants to kill us. I mean, plus they say stupid things like Israel should end its occupation of Gaza. They ended it in 2005, Jerkos, but they don't teach you that at Harvard. They leave that out. Israel's been out of there since 2005, 2007. Hamas was voted in. It's not about occupation. Or Israel is a colonial power. Israel was put there by the United Nations. They didn't go take it. They got put there, and then they got attacked. They didn't invade. They didn't invade Israel and take it. It really has never been the home of the Jewish people, except 2,000 years ago, King David captured it and named it Israel. And then for 1,500 years, the Jewish people have been saying and concluding their High Holy Day services with "See you next year" or "Meet with you next year in Jerusalem." That's only 1,500 years old.
Yeah.
The people who have the closest connection with Jerusalem are without any doubt the Jewish people. The Muslim connection is tangential. Their holy city is Mecca. The only connection to Jerusalem is that Muhammad says in the Quran that he was sleeping on what is now the Temple Mount, and the angel Gabriel came and took him to meet Abraham and Jesus, and he had a good time with them, and they dictated the Quran to him, including the parts about making sure you kill Jews and Christians. And everybody's afraid to tell you that. They're afraid to tell you because either they don't read the Quran or they're engaged in this silly lying and fake news. And the Quran justifies, demands in some cases, the murder of Jews and Christians. And it does reward you with heaven and 72 virgins. 72, yeah, 72. The translation could be 72 or 79. In either case, the arithmetic doesn't work. But I'm gonna have to wrap up.
We could go all night.
I'd love the Ukraine and Burmisa another time.
Yeah.
Topic that made.
The Ukraine is another issue in which we're just not telling people the truth about Zelensky.
And most people don't know about Hunter Biden and Burmisa Holdings.
I mean, Zelensky, whether Zelensky is crooked or not, he's certainly covering it up. He's got you can even taking out America. He's got an enormous amount of evidence of crimes committed by his predecessors. His prior president took about 100 million in bribes, which is money he should recover for his people. I mean, who's getting screwed with the Ukrainian people?
Well, Mayor, you know what? Let's keep going. We got a young Pennsylvania voter here.
Oh, Pennsylvania! That's the state that's going to decide things.
So we'll have JD come on real quick, and then we'll finish up with our last guest. We'll have her come say hi, and then we'll call it a night. How about that?
Everyone. Then I'm happy.
Night gets a little.
Then I'm very happy, and I can point out that. Last night.
So while we'll make the change here.
You make the change. Last night.
For me, some TV magic here. We want to thank Paulina. She'll be back on. She's a long-time listener. First-time caller, we'll call it. That's a radio label. So thank you, Paulina. We're going to zoom in here on the mayor, and then we're going to make our quick change. All right, Mayor, you're up.
Well, I'm going to point out that last night, Brett Baer was the first one, including Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, to point out that this bill that Harris talks about all the time, everything would have been great if Trump supported the bill and didn't stop them for voting for the bill. Well, first of all, the bill was too late to do any good. By the time that bill was propounded and put forward, there were already 15 million illegals in the country. But number two, the fact checkers allow that to be said without pointing out that the bill would allow 1.8 million illegal migrants into the country every year. So you basically would legalize illegal immigration. So how's that? I mean, you would stop. It would be like, we're going to stop murder by legalizing it. We got a great solution to murder. Don't make it legal. Make it legal. That's what they would do. They would have allowed 1.8 million illegals to come into the country, and only then would we put restrictions on. The second thing it would do, it would create amnesty for everybody. So I don't understand why even Trump and Vance didn't make this point. And I don't understand, as long as they're in the business of fact checking, every time that Harris brings it up, say, what bill? The bill would be legalizing illegal immigration, and it would be a path to citizenship for all the people who are illegal, including the ones that are now committing crimes at record levels, including crimes like murder and rape.
Well, Mayor,
All right.
got two guests
Yes.
to wrap up the show.
Good.
2 voters in 2 very.
And here we got a guy from probably, I would say at this point, the most important state in terms of particularly if Trump wins it. I mean, Trump could conceivably win, be harder without it, but if he wins it, it's basically over.
So we got JD Dunphy from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
All right.
Pleasure to be here, Mr. Mayor.
Well, tell us, JD, how would think? Where in Pennsylvania?
I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right.
Obviously, our Phillies kind of laid an egg this year. So
Yeah, I mean, they had
I
a
was
better.
hoping we get to play the Yankees.
I was hoping too. We played in, what was it, 09 or 10? 09, right?
It was back there. We had a
Yeah.
little revenge, but listen, we still have some problems in Philadelphia, but there's a big push in PA to. I think we're turning the tide in Philadelphia. I think
In Philly too?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Philly. Well, I'm talking Pennsylvania, across our the counties. I think we're doing some good work out there. The groundwork is good. I think we have a good opportunity to take over the Pennsylvania.
Do you think they're going to cheat as much?
Well, they're going to cheat till the end.
I mean, Philadelphia
Don't
wouldn't
cheat
be
till the end.
Philadelphia if they didn't cheat.
Well, listen, 600,000 votes showed up in the middle of the night, 4 years ago.
What the heck? That can happen. I mean,
Um,
the angel Gabriel took Muhammad to, to
Listen, Philly is. We're going to give Sherrill Parker an opportunity to make Philly play by the rules and
I shouldn't say this, but I have a little, I'm going to say it anyway. I can say it, right? Why would Shapiro want to see Harris elected? He right now, I guess, would be considered the leading candidate for the Democrats 4 years from now. He gets that numbskull elected. That could block him for 8 years. Or even if she's unsuccessful, I mean, it can make things impossible for any Democrat. You get another unsuccessful Democrat presidency, there are an awful lot of Republicans other than Trump who are pretty darn attractive. It make him being president very hard.
it all had to do around Israel. Listen, Israel's taking the lead.
That's another
And
reason. Why would Shapiro
Yeah.
want to have a person elected who might end Israel?
Well, that's the whole thing. So listen, Israel has taken the lead. Listen, the United States of America always led first.
Mm-hmm.
We're batting second to Israel right now. And that never happens in the United
Because we have a
States of America.
coward running us.
So listen, when Donnie gets back in the office,
Yeah, it'll
things change.
Yeah.
We're the leadoff hitter. We're batting cleanup as well. So if you don't play by the rules, you're going to pay the consequences. So there's 2 things we're going to do here. We're going to scorch earth right from the jump street.
Mhm.
I don't know if Donnie. I think Donnie should play. Let's fix our economy. Let's get people back to work.
Which he's very good at.
Then we're going to go scorch earth. If you don't play by our rules,
He might not have
we're
to.
gonna do it.
If you legitimately threaten it and they believe you're going to do it, you can very often create a victory without losing a life. I mean, Ronald Reagan sure did that. I mean, they were so afraid of him. If you talk to Russians now that lived there then and have now turned, to here, they tell you that they grew up deathly afraid of Ronald Reagan. And he was the nicest man you'd ever meet. But boy, he did a great job of psyching him out.
I don't know if it's psyching. It's called leadership.
Yeah.
You've done it. You did it in New York. It was one of the safest cities in the world. It was the beacon of the United States. It's turned into a shithole,
Yeah.
is what it has turned into.
Um,
I'm from Philadelphia. I hate going up to New York now. I used to go there once a month.
Oh, it's gonna break your heart, Mayor.
No, it does. It does,
And yours.
because it's a good city. It's a good, it's a good place to go out and great food, and it's great restaurants, and there's great people up there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, that we were going down before we ended up with 60% of the crime in Queens being caused by illegal migrants. We were doing pretty bad even without them. Well, thank you very, very much.
Well, JD,
my pleasure.
thanks for.
Make sure you're there to vote, huh?
EJT,
And
get
watch
vote PA, make it happen. Listen,
and watch the extra paper being put in.
Pennsylvania, get out and vote. You know, the real leader here is Donald J. Trump. Make sure you vote, and we'll fix America, and we'll make it great again.
All right.
Thank you, JD. So we have one more guest, our final guest of the evening. We have our friend here from Florida. She is a self-described master of everything.
Come
Yes.
here, my dear. Sit down.
Yeah, sunshine. So kind of like, jack of all trade, master of nothing.
No, that's not nice.
That's not her.
Oh,
Her right here. She is a master of everything. Self-described master of everything. That's
I can do all.
introducing herself, yeah. And she's a Florida voter,
I am. I'm excited about it.
and she wanted to come on,
please
meet the mayor.
tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I lived in New York City when you were mayor.
Mhm.
It was incredible. I felt safe. I don't go to New York City anymore because the last time I was at my apartment, unfortunately, I was stepping over a homeless man. It's really sad to see what's going
Yeah,
on in this
it is.
country. And
And New York is not, unusual now. It's all over the country.
and that's my next point. I was in California during the pandemic and I saw all the ridiculous protests going on. And this country, one thing I will say is from my parents' generation, you used to be able, even if you didn't agree on politics, at least be able to talk about it,
Yeah, sure.
educate yourself,
Absolutely.
and have a different opinion. My one of my biggest concerns is, I have friends with master's degrees and they can't get a job. They're looking everywhere. They're overqualified and there's no jobs. The other thing is fentanyl. It's killing everyone. I've lost friends, actually. And it's made in the same lab as where COVID came from. Goes over to Guatemala. It hits El Chapo's sons are the most powerful they've ever been. And they grab it and they cut it, and it's coming into this country because it's a free-for-all. And, let's not only talk about South America now. We've had 4 years. Look at 9/11. We could have people sitting ducks right now and just not know. It's free.
I think that given the number of attacks that we've had in the Middle East by the Houthis and the lack of response by America to protect its own people, it just invites more and more and more and more attacks. I mean, they're going to attack until we stop them from doing it.
They parade our military equipment every year now since we left and how we left. They parade all the military equipment that we left there. It's so much American tax dollars. And, like I said, I went to the grocery store today, bought a very small amount. It's $400.
You have to take out a mortgage?
People can't afford to live anymore.
Do you have to take out a mortgage?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, my dear. I just want to show them something about how the drugs get into the United States of America. We're going to show them how Let's see. Is that it right there? There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Okay, Teddy,
All right, we're good.
my friend, put this up on the board. I'm going to show him how drugs get
All right,
into
now
America.
we gotta go. We gotta.
Yeah, we got to show him this stuff.
Yeah.
So that is the. Stay right there. Sit there for a minute. So that's the border. Okay, see how big it is? It goes over from Brownsville on the right. See Brownsville on the right,
Yeah.
and you see San Diego on the left. Those little points and dots you see are the border crossings. I would like you to look at how much space there is in between those border crossings. Now, all along that border are the Mexican cartels, the main ones being Sinaloa and Golfo. And they patrol that border the way we used to patrol it when Trump was president. In fact, by doing Remain in Mexico, he pushed the border back into Mexico. But now the border doesn't exist anymore. So if you succeed in bringing 5,000 people into El Paso, which you see right in the center there, right? You're going to distract a lot. You're going to distract a lot of border patrol. And in that area between even El Paso and Nogales, plenty of opportunities to just walk across the border with nobody seeing you, stopping you. You could surveil it for 2 days and make sure there's nobody there, and then bring in as much fentanyl as you want. Most of the fentanyl comes in those huge spaces in between the border crossings. And by the way, the estimate is that another 50 to 100% of the people that are detained come in that way. If you took the 100%, which is an MIT number, that would mean we had about 10 million people that came in that we never saw. We have no idea who they are. Conservative number would be 5 million. They have to be among the most dangerous and the high value ones that pay a lot of money to come in. Well, we'll do this in much greater detail at some point to show you the actual routes. I mean, I used to do this years ago when the Mexican cartels were really subservient to the Colombian cartels, but now they're as powerful or even more powerful than the Colombian cartels. And every one of those cartels has a representative in your city. We'll show you that map too. You can be a little city, like the little ones that are claiming they have no real problem because their mayors are lily-livered cowards, but and don't care about their people. But this is affecting almost all of America now. It used to be just the big cities. It's now all of America. Thanks to left-wing communist policies, this is the way you destroy a country so that it stops being American and it starts being one world, which is the desire of Prince Obama, Klaus Schwab, and plenty of others. Well, pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of Ukraine in particular, but also pray for all of us that we have the wisdom and the courage to save this country. And God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the